Hello, welcome to the Superbone channel. We're interviewing top trombonists from around the world, and this one's an international one. We have an American living in Launceston in Tasmania. This is Monte Mumford. Say hi, Monte.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us on the Superbone channel, Monte. I hear you've just celebrated 60 years of playing the trombone, so we're going to crack in. I won't tell them anything about you because we'd like you to tell us about you. Let's go right back to the start. What were your first teachers, first influences? How did you start playing the trombone?
Well, that's an interesting thing because I started telling my parents I wanted to play the trombone when I was 5.
Wow.
My parents loved the Lawrence Welk show. It was a kind of a variety show that went on and on and on in America. But he had a big band. I don't know. I thought the trombone looked really cool. And I think my parents thought it was kind of cute. And so they encouraged me. But So I got my first trombone. It was a 1921 Con 2H.
Wow.
And we bought it out of the paper for $10 and a whole bunch of music. But I didn't get really to start on it. I got sidetracked and went down to the Salvation Army and started playing a cornet and didn't like it. But you know, isn't it interesting when you open up an old instrument case, the smell?
Yep.
That smell, I can still smell that smell.
I think it's mold, isn't it?
But I kind of gave that away. I just lost interest. It wasn't what I wanted to do. And my 4th grade teacher, Miss Ann Green, was very excited about starting a band in her little primary school. And they had a 7-week, in 1960, music summer school, 4 hours a day, 5 days a week for 7 weeks. You know, I started out there with my 1921 Con 2H, friction thing. You know, you held the trombone slide the bell with friction.
Yeah.
Twisted. Well, with a 10-year-old needing a lot of attention, the trombone seemed to come apart often and fall on the floor. Which the high school band director who was running this would say, "Holy Jerusalem, who dropped their false teeth?" So he called my parents up and said, "Look, I don't know whether this kid's got any talent or anything, but he's just a class clown right now. He's got a trombone that keeps falling apart all the time. Could you get him a decent instrument?" So that was about 3.5 weeks. My dad took me down to Mr. Allen's music store in La Mesa, and we bought a $50 Elkhart student trombone.
Lovely.
And then in the fall, my music teacher, who had been my 4th grade teacher, she now became music teacher, she started up this band. I must have been about 10, 11 or 12. We started off with Easy Steps to Band. And I was the only trombone player for quite some time. And then there was another guy. But, my mom had a lot to do with it. She wanted one of her 3 sons to be a musician. You know, as soon as I finished the summer school, I got private lessons with a man by the name of Marshall Sleet. The music wing of that school is now named after him.
Wow.
I had him for a year.
Yep.
And he was a pretty cool guy. I went to his summer school and I participated in his summer school. And then it was something, I don't know what happened, but I got changed to another teacher. His name was Thomas Lauerson. And he had been the principal trumpet of the San Diego Symphony.
Okay.
Uniquely a good trumpet player. He was a fabulous cornet player. He came out of the brass band scene in Scotland.
Yep.
He had this broad Scottish accent.
Yes.
And I just loved him. He's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
He's a Christian and he got invited to play at churches, but as he got older, couldn't do that. And so he put me in and he would write me these incredible theme and variation arrangements.
Yeah.
And my mother, who was a pretty decent self-taught pianist, and she would play with me. And so I think my first solo performance was in our church and, standing up and playing for an offertory or something.
Nice.
My junior high band director was the current principal drummer of the San Diego Symphony. And he was a terror. Louis Campilla. Yeah, he helped Harold Mitchell write probably one of the finest trumpet methods. Okay. I had these guys around me that were right from the very beginning, amazing musicians. I then moved into high school, grade 9, and I had Benton Miner, probably one of the more significant band directors, musicians. Eugene Portnoy, tuba player with the Chicago Symphony, one of his students. And we could go through Eugene Corporon. Some of you guys will know who hit. Yeah, he was one of Miner's proteges.
Sure.
Richard Watson, chief musical director of Disneyland for like 20 years. One of Miner's former students.
Yeah.
I could just keep going. Randy Hester, principal flute with the Columbia Symphony Orchestra. David Angus, principal with the blah, 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 blah. So that was the caliber of the kind of teaching. And
Yeah.
it was funny because I realized, I didn't get it at the time, but while I was in high school, we went to, again, another big one of these summer schools, and he was one of the conductors. Well, he was one of the 4 conductors. The others were Dr. Frank Rhodes of New Mexico, Frank Pearsall of Iowa, Richard P. Conde, director of the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, Arthur Fiedler, conductor of the Boston Pops,
Wow.
and my high school band director. William D. Ravelli, legendary director of the Michigan State Band.
So you really had a great start in terms of caliber of teachers. And you're a teacher at the moment. Has teaching changed much, do you think?
I think today we have decided that we've become content teachers. We teach content.
Okay. Yeah.
I see myself as an investment counselor.
Yep.
Or a signpost. I teach, or I show students how to invest. Kids will continue practicing if there is a return on their investment. So I want to make sure that I'm teaching my students about how to invest, because it's the student that invests.
Yeah.
If they get a payoff from that investment, they'll be there tomorrow.
Sure.
If the payoff belongs to them instead of me, they really will be there tomorrow.
And so how does that differ from your original teachers? Like their style of teaching was pretty direct, and you play your scales and you do this and then you'll become a good player, or
what did they do? Well, they first of all said that you've got to master these things, and then you've got to learn how to take what you master here and apply it. You don't learn solos, you learn technique.
Sure.
You have this automatic response. You're looking at music and you're making automatic responses on the techniques so that you can do directly to the musical interpretation.
Yeah. Sure.
Don't focus on the technique. You have to have it. It's only a servant to the master of expression. Yeah. And that's what my teachers wanted to imbued in me.
Sure.
If you like, first of all, a love of music.
Yeah.
All of my teachers loved music. They loved teaching and they loved kids.
Sure. Yeah.
They loved their students.
Yeah. Brilliant.
Jeffrey Friend, he told me one time there was 5 keys, and I built on those, but 5 keys. Love what you do.
Yeah.
And because you love what you do, you will be able to motivate the people around you through your passion and love.
Yeah.
Love knowledge, and I add love, knowledge, and wisdom. Wisdom teaches us how to use knowledge.
Yep.
Number 4, bring a moment of significance
Yep.
to every lesson where everything stops.
Yep.
And then lastly, be a person of integrity. Yeah, you can hang on to those 5 things. You can teach anything, any subject.
Absolutely. Sounds like a really good list to start with when you're doing a lesson plan. Often I've been talking to people about the variety that their teachers have tried to instill into their playing. Can we move further into your career and as a trombone player? What were the types of gigs that you were getting? What music were you concentrating on? Who were the influences there? Maybe you heard a recording or played with someone who was a fantastic musician that really taught you something.
Well, from my early time, or somewhere probably around about 8 or 9, 10, there was a man by the name of Otis Skillings. He introduced me to Bill Pierce.
Yeah.
And Bill Pierce was my first trombone album. It was a man who could sing through his instrument. He was well expressive. Yeah. He never did anything really hugely technically impressive. It was his sound. Yeah. This gorgeous sound. Have you heard Bill Pierce? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Incredible. Played an Olds opera.
Oh, wow.
Back in the day when the big bore instruments were not particularly in favor. Everybody wanted to play the little thing. My second, when I finished high school, I was going to go to university and learn to be a music educator. I played at the Youth for Christ International Music competition in Winona Lake. Came second in the United States as a soloist, as an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I had played for the California Band Directors Association and won the competition, the statewide competition, with the David trombone concerto. I had a week and a half to learn it and memorize it.
And you came second. That's amazing.
Today, I just, I go like, oh my God, I can't believe it. But there was a $500 scholarship that went with it. and I needed the money, man. We came from a very poor family. $500 was a lot of money. At any rate, coming out of that, I went to the competition, and a guy by the name of Dave Ayers, an incredible trombone player, was a talent scout for a group called the Spurlows.
Okay.
And the Spurlows is this international group that toured all over the United States, worked for Chrysler during the day, doing high school shows, and in the night did church concerts.
Yep.
We were doing 5 to 6 shows a day, 7 days a week, traveling somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 miles a day at times. And it was there that I met an incredible guy, Dave Williamson, the leader of the band, 19-year-old leader of the band, sax, clarinet, flute, out of the Oakland scene, San Francisco, incredible. And then the rest of the band. So there was like 5 brass, 2 trombones, 3 trumpets, Terry Winch, lead trumpet, incredible.
Yeah.
The kit player, Gary Schaefer. It was an amazing band, but it was there that I got to meet guys in the New York scene who gave me my first 2 real trombone albums, a 21 Irby Green 21 trombone. Yeah. From that moment, Bill Watrous and Irby Green were my heroes.
Amazing.
And J.J. Johnson and Kai Winding.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to sound like those guys.
Yeah.
So I was on the road for a year. We did 65,000 miles, 900 concerts in a year. Came back, as you could try to come back and go to university now after having lived in a suitcase. The first few weeks I was just climbing the walls.
It
was crazy.
Yeah.
And I went to university and I discovered early music.
Wow. So you've gone from classical into touring for a year you were doing jazz with the Chrysler big band and then straight into early music. Yeah, that's variety.
And it's interesting because I feel like I've been very blessed in that career. When you're not with the music you love, you love the music you live.
Yeah.
When I moved to Australia after finishing my degree, my teaching degree, because I came out with a performance degree in trombone and a music education degree. When I got to Tasmania, I met a group called the Jazzmanians. And the Jazzmanians were guys that were playing at some of the finest trad jazz. I got into trad jazz because that's what there was.
Sure.
So I played heaps of trad jazz with the Jazzmanians, Billy Brown, and
it's a great name. It's a great name for a band.
Well, it was a great band, and they're actually quite well known amongst the trad jazz scene of early jazz in Australia. I played with those guys. I got to play with the Dutch Swing College. I got to play with Akabilk. I got to play with Kenny Ball. I got to play with Bob Bernard. I got to play with James Morrison. Standing on the stage playing with these guys, and Bob Bernard was just he was a stunning player. So I got to play with some amazing players because here in Launceston, I got to play with Ricky May. My life has had such an incredible thing. There's nothing that it doesn't matter. I even did Elvis shows, played rock and roll trombone. I never played yakety sax with them.
Yes.
But and being in a small town, coming here to teach in Launceston, I got to do all kinds of stuff.
Right. That's the one thing that kind of stands out to me though, is that growing up in Australia, I always felt there was such a divide between the Australians and overseas. And the caliber of musicians in Australia is obviously very good still. But I'm surprised that you moved quite early. How old were you when you moved to Tasmania?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but I'll try to make it quick. My wife and I married in 1971. We finished up university, got married in the middle of university. I finished up my degrees. Kathy didn't finish hers for a while. There was a thing called the overseas airlift of American teachers coming from America to teach for a teacher shortage in Australia. Well, it wasn't a teacher shortage. It was the fact that the states didn't recognize each other's educational qualifications. So they thought it was much better to bring green American teachers who had no idea about how the Australian education is, so bring them in, throw them into classes, and somehow hope something was coming together. I got sent out to foster
Yeah.
In 1974, to be the first music teacher in 17 years, fresh out of university.
Yeah.
I had trained as an instrumental music teacher, not a classroom teacher.
No. And
So
not a classroom teacher of Australians.
No, it was very different. But I started a band.
Yep.
I got involved in the FAMDA, the Foster Arts guys. I did musicals. I put musicals on. I taught classroom music.
Yeah. Wow.
So pretty easy. I go up to Melbourne and see concerts and stuff. At the end of 3 years, we had a child. We moved to Tasmania. We hitchhiked through here for, I don't know, a couple of weeks and fell in love with it and moved our job to teaching at Queechee High School, which I did for another year. And then we thought, well, we got a child, it's time to get home. So we blasted back to America in 1977.
Yeah.
I took on a job teaching middle school, junior high, high school, teaching choir and band.
Yep.
And playing. I played in an orchestra in Seattle. I drove an hour and a half each way to play in a symphony orchestra in Seattle.
Wow.
And I played. I didn't do a lot of playing because it was just so hard to play and teach.
Yeah.
I kept playing. I would do recitals. I had my trombone. I always was playing my trombone. I taught 26 lessons a week.
Yeah.
Private lessons.
Wow.
Of everything because it was a small town, so I taught it all. And then in 1984, we immigrated. I got offered to teach at the College of Advanced Education in Launceston.
Yep. Sounds like you really fell in love with Australia the first time you were there. And
in 1982, watching Man from Snowy River, my wife looks over at me with tears in her eyes and says, "Can we go home?" I said, "Well, the movie's not over yet. We can't go home now." And she says, "No, can we go home?"
Yeah.
That home. Well,
nice.
Let's see.
That's great. That's a lot of people say to me, because I've moved to the UK from Australia, and people look at me, mostly non-musicians look at me and say, "Why would you move?" And I think for me, Australia has a very different musical scene. You know, here I feel like there's a lot more opportunity. And I think it depends what type of musician you are and how you learned and your journey over the years as to whether a scene that has less opportunities is better for you or a scene that has more. You know, some people are motivated differently. And I think that's been the biggest catalyst for me to become a better player, is just a bit more encouragement because I'm playing with more people.
I feel like I came to Australia because I felt I had something, without being egotistical here at all. I felt like I saw the potential and I thought I could possibly make a difference here.
Yeah.
If I because I mean, the other side of me is the conductor side. And I spent most of my life as a professional conductor. I taught choir, conducted choir. I conducted brass ensembles. I conducted everything I could get my hands on.
Yeah.
I love conducting. To me, an ensemble is just a giant trombone.
I need to play under you as a conductor so I can play as loud as possible. Because
something like that. I did grow up with that hand in my face from my clarinet conductor. I've been fortunate that I got to be a conductor. I got to form a community music program that grew from one group to 6 groups. That grew from like 50 players to 250 meeting every week.
Yeah.
We played all kinds of music. The brass ensemble. We had a trombone quartet. I started a trombone quartet in 1980 something.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no. I played with the Tasmanian Symphony Orchestra guys to do my master's, because I did my master's in trombone performance in 1986 to 1988.
Yep.
And so I played with the TSO guys. We formed a quartet. We did live ABC broadcasts. I did the David trombone concerto with the TSO. I did the concerto de Hiver with the Conservatorium String Ensemble as an ABC broadcast. So there was all of these things, and I felt like in Launceston I could do everything.
Yeah.
I could conduct. I could play trombone. I could play a trombone quartet.
Yeah.
I could play a quintet, brass quintet. I could play solos. I have an accompanist that I haven't mentioned yet, Linda Nichols Jessup.
Yeah.
She's remarried. Her first husband passed away. And she and I started playing in 1984 together. We still play.
Yeah.
And we've been playing together for 30 odd years. In 2017, she and I put together an album called Go Lovely Rose,
Okay.
which is basically an early 20th century leader.
Okay.
And we just took vocal works. We loved these vocal works. The trombone sings, that's what it does.
Great.
So we did this album. It's on Bandcamp. It's
Is it? Okay.
yeah,
Well,
it's called Go Lovely Rose.
We'll chuck the link in the description and see if we can get some sales for you. That'd be great.
Whatever. I mean, it's not very expensive. And it was, in the sense, it was a celebration of a partnership of 35, 36 years now.
Yeah.
Just having a great time. Linda, if you do hear the album, you'll soon realize why I dedicated 35 years of my life to playing with this woman.
Yeah. It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah. So, anyway, I mean, I have a checkered career. We kind of all over the place.
Well, it sounds like you've done a lot and achieved a lot. I mean, 60 years of playing the trombone. What am I at? 30, 20. How old am I? I don't even know anymore. 20. So another 2 times of I can't even imagine. So that's incredible, Monty.
Well, I play every day. I play every day.
Yeah.
Even in COVID.
Yeah.
I've got my sack butt here, you see.
Fantastic. Do you want to tell us about the sack butt?
Well, that was interesting. When I did my master's degree, I had fallen in love with early music by my first opportunity of playing with a guy who was doing his senior recital at university, and he was doing Philime Absalon by Heinrich Schütz. I went, oh my God, where's this stuff been all my life? This is amazing. So I fell in love with it. But in 1971, early music was really not many people knew what was going on. It was really a European thing. Anyway, I had a lot of interest, and I bought everything that I could find. I bought every CD, Edward Tarr. I bought all the Schütz stuff. I just fallen in love with it, but there was no opportunity. So when I got to do my master's, they said, "Well, what would you like to do for your thesis?" So I had 2.5 hours of solo performance, and 2.5 hours of ensemble experience with the TSO guys. Yeah. And then I had 2 major concerti to play. I told you already that had to be public performances. And then I had a 60,000 word thesis. Wow. And so I chose the development of the trombone as a soloistic instrument during the 17th and 18th centuries. Wow. Part of that was I was supposed to do a lecture demonstration, but that never happened for whatever reasons. I bought a sack butt. I bought a Helmut Finke sack butt in 1986 and fell in love playing it. It was too cool, but there was nobody to play with. No one. And so I played some stuff. And as things started to change, there were more opportunities. I went to America to teach for 5 years. Once I finished at the University of Tasmania in 2003, I took a job teaching from 2005 to 2010 at the University of Northwestern, where I was professor of music and director of bands. There, I found people who loved early music, had my sack butt, and we did a lot of playing. When I came back, I convinced my good friend Stephen King and some of my other friends, Carl and Andrew, to get sack butts. And so we have a sack butt group. And so I went to study with Adam Wolf. He was doing a weekend thing in San Sebastian, Donostia. And I went off and had a fantastic week of playing sack butt, and found that my sack butt was not quite as nice as someone else's. So I convinced Tony Gutierrez I jumped the queue. I said, I don't got a lot of years left, so if you make me wait 2 or 3 years, I'll be too old. You make me now, So,
I need my sack butt.
I need it now. I want to play this thing. So I've done several recitals with my accompanist on organ and harpsichord and portative and all kinds of stuff. So
sounds brilliant. I mean, that's about as far from trad jazz and jazz as you could get. But I did manage to see a group play at Slide Factory, which is the European trombone festival.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a group out of Toulouse or something, Sack Butts to Toulouse or something like that, and they were early music ensemble.
Sac Couture de Toulouse.
That one. And they were doing an album with a jazz quintet.
But it was
a phenomenal fusion of early music and jazz, and it was early music tunes played in a jazz style.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And it was jazz tunes played in an early music style. Like there was this, and they worked really well together, because at the same time that the early music ensemble were playing their stuff, the jazz guys were complementing it with their styles. And I think the highlight at the end was the jazz trombonist picking up one of the sack butts and starting to improvise on a sack butt, which is just an incredible sound. I was blown away.
Well, these instruments were the first improvisers, man. These guys were improvising. They had, they had a framework, but the framework just allowed this incredible amount of ornamentation, and that would they call it divisions in early music. It doesn't matter. It comes back to that same old thing. When I'm not with the music I love the music I'm with. And I feel like I've been fortunate all my life to be able to just have because I live in Launceston, I don't know, I just got to do. I have to finish by saying that I had an awesome trombone quartet while I was at Northwestern. And they're on YouTube. You just put my name in there, and you can find us playing some stuff. None of those guys had an experience of playing really any chamber music, let alone playing a trombone quartet.
Yeah, I'm sure some people out there have heard of you and come across you, over the years. But for the people who haven't, we'll make sure we get links to that for you, and so you can experience the Monte Mumford sound. And I definitely will digest quite a bit as I'm researching. I want to just make sure that you've had an opportunity to tell us a funny story that happened.
Oh, I've got one. That's my next thing. Okay, both of my funny stories. So I'm at Northwestern, and this young lady comes in. She's a second-year university student. She says, "Hey, I understand you have a good band here." I said, "Well, we're kind of working on it, but." I said, "What do you play? You want to play?" She says, "Yeah, I play the flute."
Yeah.
Right. I have 12 flutes. You play anything else? She says, "Yeah, I play a bit of trombone." "Oh, really? Well, we could use a trombone. Tell me a little bit about that." And she says, "Well, I was in high school, and we lived in Montana, and, there was like 3 kids, a goat and a tiger and whatever else was hanging around. So they needed a trombone player." So I raised my hand and said, "Okay, well, right. Okay." So I said, would you like to come in and have a blow, and we'll see how it goes?" She says, "Oh yeah, that'd be really great." Okay. So she comes back, and I give her a trombone, and she's sitting there and she's playing away, and I'm going, I'm watching her. She's using all these alternate positions. Right. It's like, D's and 4 and B flats in 5th position and F's and 6s. And I'm going like, so I thought, wait, stop. I said, "Did your trombone teacher told, I had you really working on alternates? My students, they really struggle with it." She looked at me, says, "Yeah, it was just logical." What? You're a flute player and you're playing trombone, and it's logical to use the alternative position. I said, "Honey, you got a place in our band." She worked her tush off and got good enough to play in that trombone quartet. And the trombone quartet got to be pretty awesome. Right. But I'll never forget laughing my head off when she told me that, "Oh yeah, it was just, it just seemed to be more logical."
Did she just have really long arms? Was that the problem? Like, I feel like
she was a pianist. Her major instrument actually was a pianist, and she was on a volleyball scholarship.
Okay.
She came back to me after about 5 or 6 weeks, and she said, "You know what?" She was on a full scholarship, volleyball and science. She was going to be a science teacher. She comes back to my office and she said, "You know what? I've had to rethink about all that stuff. I just want to do what you do."
Wow.
You do what I do. "Yeah, I want to be a music educator."
That's great.
Really? So she gave her scholarships away, jumped into the music. In her 3rd year of teaching at Wyoming, she was elected the best young teacher of the year in her state.
Wow. Brilliant. Well, Monty, it's been great to have you on the channel. Before we do go, is there anything you want to kind of say, maybe pump up something that you're doing at the moment, let everyone know what's happening?
I would just like to encourage you to encourage your students, if you're teaching, to listen. Get your students to find heroes. Get your students to hear great players. We have more access to this stuff than in any other time. And let's make sure that we find people to carry on this incredible tradition of this amazing instrument and fire them up with as much enthusiasm. I just want to encourage all of you out there watching the program to share your passion, to share your love, because that's what makes a difference in people's lives. When my son was going to work for Wycliffe Translators, I saw on the leader of the thing, it's my mission in life to make a difference in the lives of others and to live a life of integrity. Right. And I think, we've got this incredible instrument.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's share it.
Fantastic. So I don't even know how to, follow that up other than to say I agree wholeheartedly. And we're so privileged to have you for this interview. So thank you again, Monte. And thank you all for listening at home. This has been the Superbone channel. So thanks and say bye to Monte.
Thanks for joining us on the Superbone channel. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have, please leave a comment, subscribe and hit that notification bell to hear about any new videos coming up.